Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. He'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. He'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time.
First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
First
the
Contact
truth.
Radio. Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Happy 4th of July. It's good to be back. I took a couple weeks off, actually about a month off, and I thought today, 4th of July, here in America would be a good day to return back to the show. I'm still in the middle of a transition, but the new studio is being developed, so this is kind of makeshift at the moment. So let's jump into things. Let's start off with our astrology. Now, the way I look at things is everything is energy. So when we look at the day, we look at the energy of the day, and I like to look at things in a very simplistic way. I know that you can look at this in a very detailed, oriented way, and a lot of people like to do that, astrologers and so on. I like to look at it in a real basic kind of way and let the basics kind of guide me along the day and learn from it what I can. And everybody should just kind of feel comfortable learning what they can from these type of systems. So today's the 4th. What we see here is we have a moon sign in Aquarius. Our sun sign is in Cancer. Cancer is a water sign. Aquarius, even though it looks like two little water waves, it's actually air. It's an air sign. And we can kind of get an idea how the vibrations of the air move when we look at this symbol here. So Aquarius is an air sign. So what that means is when you think of the elements, you got fire, water, air, and earth. Fire moves. Water can move, it can flow, or it stays stationary, like in a glass or a bowl. Air moves. Sometimes it's still, but it moves, and earth is stable. So when we look at all of these different elements, we're just looking to see what is the element involved. With our conscious mind, since we're in Cancer, we have a water sign, so we have water, emotions. Our conscious mind is dealing with emotional issues during the Cancerian time, and anything that deals with feeding those things that feed the emotions. The home environment is part of that as well, the mother, the moon. And then when we get into our moon sign today, Aquarius. Aquarius is, you know how we talked about the age of Aquarius moving forward into that futuristic time. It's taking our thoughts and looking at our thoughts towards futuristic moments, towards the future. So we have that movement of thought moving us forward, movement of that wind, of that air. So we have emotions in our conscious mind, and we have Aquarius underneath fueling those emotions. Now, if we look at some of the aspects that are going on over today, later this evening, we don't really have any aspects over the course of the day until we get tonight, but 5:16 p.m. we have a sextile between Aquarius and Uranus. So we do have some unexpected changes that do come about in those areas. Nice positive changes, so we just want to keep our minds open to understanding the surprises that come our way. Here we have a opposition taking place between Jupiter and Aquarius, 8:37 p.m. This is when they're opposites. We can go over here and we can look for Jupiter, which is right here, and there's our opposite there. So that's how we see them. Jupiter, Aquarius. Okay, so Jupiter here is in the house of Leo. Leo is our creativity, so our creativity is expanding. Aquarius is over here. The moon is over in Aquarius here. I'll deal with that really good positive flow of energy towards our futuristic goals and dreams. And the two of these, when you have this symbol here, it's kind of like a teeter-totter. So you want to hope that both characters play nicely in the teeter-totter. One doesn't jump off and you have a nice good balance. And there's a nice expansion of what it is with all of these ideals that we're moving towards. 11:14 p.m. we have a trine with Mercury So now our mind is going to start to get into the mix a little bit more, thinking how we can communicate what it is we learned today. And then shortly after that, we have another opposition. This time Venus is in the mix, and Venus wants us to apply our imagination to things. Okay? I've got the Planet Watcher wheel here, so you can just go along and check everything out as we talked about. Here's the opposition with the Moon, Aquarius, and Venus. Here's the opposition here. And everything else placed exactly as I was just talking about. On the Jewish calendar today is 17 Tammuz. 17 Tammuz, and if we look to see what that is, the Talmud lists 5 tragic events in the Jewish history that occurred on Tammuz 17. The first of these in 1313, 40 days after the giving of the Torah, on Sivan 6, upon descending Mount Sinai and witnessing Israel's worship of the golden calf, Moses smashed the tablets inscribed with the 10 Commandments, which he was carrying down from the mountain. Okay, very significant. And let's go look at the daily thought today. It's make up your own life. If everything were spelled out exactly what you are supposed to do, when, how, with whom, and for how long, room would be left for you to live your own life. This is why the details of your mission in this world are withheld from you, out of God's great benevolence, so that this little creature can decide on its own and partner with God in its own life. Current moon phase is 92% of the way full. We had the full moon 2 nights ago, so now we're making our way back down to a new moon. We can tell we're making our way down because we're a waning moon. We have waxing moon and waning moon. Wax up from new moon to full moon, wane down from a full moon to a new moon. Over at spaceweather.com, solar wind is currently at 368.9 kilometers per second. Planetary K-index is quiet. We're at a 1. Possibility maybe up to a 2. Several coronal holes that we can see here, and sometime over the next couple days, between the 5th and the 7th, we should be getting some wind coming off of these holes from the sun, so we'll be feeling that energy down here. M-class flare possibilities up at 10%, X-class at 1. Geomagnetic storm activity seems to be increasing in the mid-latitudes, going up from 25 to 35%. In the high latitudes, we're going from 30 to 55%. So there is activity taking place out there. Remember, the sun breathes in and out, and that's what's going on with all of these solar flares and so on. They help us down here by sending us energy from out there. And now last, we're going to look at our sky tonight. We're going to see Venus and Jupiter. Look how close they're going to be tonight, 2 degrees apart. Just above them, we've got Leo. It says out to watch fireworks. As dusk settles in, do a bit of astronomy, outreach. People out, point out people, Venus and Jupiter still forming a striking pair low in the west, and fainter Regulus to the upper left. Also, the 2 brightest stars of the summer, Arcturus, 37 light years away, very high towards the southwest, and Vega, 25 light years distant, nearly as high in the east. It's amazing the number of people who don't quite grasp to see such things for yourself with your own eyes. Okay? And there you have it. So that's our energy for today. Just remember, it's all energy. All we're learning how to do is to work with the energy so we can get better and better at it, more efficient, and our lives become more efficient in the process. All right, that gets us started. I'm going to jump over now to UFO news, let you know what's going on in the otherworldly events.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
Alrighty, Dirk. Thank you very much. So our first story is having to do with Ceres. This was on 29th. Interesting footage of a white spot found on Ceres. There we go, right there. Nothing really being said about that other than the white spot. Okay, this was from the 29th. Again, indication that there is something out there. Now up on Mars, look what was on Mars. A boat. How did this boat get on Mars? Yep, this is taken by the rover. Date of discovery, July 1st. I was checking out some GigiPan photos, hoping to find signs of ancient culture that somehow may elude NASA's prying eyes. The crown jewel of the video is an ancient boat lying on the sand. The boat has a tail fin, a few pipe-like objects that come out of its back, and its perfectly formed area where the window is. The window area may still be there. The pillars are very obvious, though their true height is unknown. Okay, here's some pillars, pieces of it. You can see the edges here. Okay. And here we have some sort of writing. Definite pyramid shape there. Okay, but this one here I think is very interesting. The boat. So, is this really a boat on Mars, or is this a boat somewhere down on Earth and they're telling us that it's Mars? Which one is it? I don't know. Next, we're going to go over to Hyde Park in London. During a concert, Blur was playing, and there were these lights up in the sky here. You see all the concert goers, stage event happening, and up in the sky. It's quite a light show they got going on there. A strange UFO was spotted at the Blur concert in Hyde Park as the band performed their classic hit Park Life. In the footage, which was shot on a mobile phone of a concert goer, Diarmond Nigel, two mysterious bright white lights are seen shooting across the sky just to the right side of the stage as the band launches into the chorus. The lights hover over the sky for a brief moment before they suddenly disappear into the air just as quickly as they came. Other festival attendees are seen holding their arms toward the sky as they dance and sing to the music, most of them unaware of the blink and you'll miss it UFO light show. So if I go through here, we can just kind of check it out. Well, maybe not. Alright. Reader sees long UFO over Roseburg, Oregon, June 30th. Okay, this one says sent in from a user. It shows a long object in the sky. About 15 to 20% of all UFOs are seen as cigar-shaped objects. If you or someone you don't know has seen this in Roseburg, please let us know in the comments below. Yesterday around 6:30ish p.m. Zoom in, it looked like a jet with no wings or rudder. Okay, pretty cool. Next up here we got some UFOs hiding in the clouds. How can I tell? Well, just look at the shape of the clouds. This was from Dublin, Ireland. These UFO clouds caused a panic by a lot of people in Dublin yesterday, as well as it should. For those new to this site, it is a well-known fact that UFOs can make clouds to hide inside of. If you don't understand this, please click here. I'll explain it for you. A nice fleet of UFOs are flying low and cloaked in the clouds over Dublin. It is believed that alien technology this close can read and record human thoughts, feelings, and even record your senses at the time. Smells, tastes, etc. Aliens have rule not to frighten humans on purpose. Cloaking is seen by them as the kind of thing to do. Okay. Very nice. For those who are paying attention, we kind of know what's going on, right? Alright. And here we have a cube in Texas. Clear video and photos of a massive cube-shaped UFO emerging from a portal in Texas. This happened on June 29th. And as we can see here, okay, see if we can get a good look at this cube from Secure Team. There we go. Pretty interesting. What do you think that is? Walter C. Lance of El Paso, Texas was the first person to submit the photographs. Lance stated he took the photographs on June 29th, around 1 p.m. Central Time. A second eyewitness also saw the cube-shaped UFO about a mile away from the first eyewitness as she was returning back to work from her lunch break. Okay, there's another picture of it right there. I don't know. It almost looks like, is that the TARDIS? Is that what that is? flying through the sky. Doctor Who will be joining us shortly. Okay, Stonehenge. Captured black flying saucer hovering over Stonehenge. There's the little saucer right there. Stonehenge is a legendary place to visit in the UK. In fact, it is amongst the best known attractions around the world. It attracts large numbers of tourists, and each tourist is being drawn to the remarkable layout of the structure and wants to find out more about its history. Aside from the Stonehenge tours, you will not only gain satisfaction but also make your travel safe and sound. Unfortunately, Stonehenge is not an exception when it comes to a hot spot for sightings. The picture captured by the space enthusiast seems to show an unusual object hovering above the stones in Wiltshire days before the summer solstice. The image was already posted and shared on UFO Sightings blog along with details about the craft. As David Jacobson claims that the strange disc object was black in color, estimated the stone to be about 20 to 30 feet across. The stone is a common spot for alien or extraterrestrial appearances, called discoid shape, declassified of a government, featuring weird places in the year 2007 and 9. Alright, there's more to the article. I'm going to leave that to you. And one last piece, Bob Lazar. We've heard about Bob Lazar and his stories about Area 51. Well, here's confirmation that he did work where he said he worked. Incredible claims have been made for years about Bob Lazar. He allegedly is a physicist with an MS in electronics from California Institute of Technology and MS in physics from MIT. Most of all, he was a scientist for Los Alamos National Laboratory, obtaining a job back engineering a S4 near Area 51 in Nevada. Supposedly, he determined how saucers work through element 115. From the 500 pounds available, he was able to steal a small quantity of 115. Unfortunately, it was taken back in early 2004, and there was an announcement about the production of 4 atoms of element 115 through a massive European accelerator for weeks. Videotapes are available for his claims. In a recent interview made by the documentary filmmaker, shocking revelations were shared, despite the denials made by several professionals working in the company. Claimed later by Lazar, one physicist confirmed that he did work for Los Alamos National Laboratories and met Lazar there. He claimed that Lazar was a physicist at that time. According to the physicist, they both recognized each other. They started on the different colored pens in which Lazar fitted that molds. No one said that Lazar is a physicist, but immediately recognized him as one by looking at his getup. He did not only look the part, but he also says he attended several security meetings with Lazar. He further explained that security meetings will give you briefing, asking you not to talk about what you do or see. He is also requested to answer some details about the particular works of Lazar. He responds with negation when asked why he shared this information, even if he knew it could get in trouble. Later on, it confirmed that Krangle was one of the renegades that no longer makes a living out of the Los Alamos contracts. Therefore, he isn't worried about it. All right, we got more to this, more interview, more info, but you can check that out on your own. And that is what is going on there with UFOs for today. All right, I'm going to jump away just for a few moments. I'll be back. Stay tuned.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace. Great Spirit, show us the way. Show us the way. Show us the way to live in peace every day. Oh, 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 oh. The wheel of life keeps rolling, rolling, rolling.
All right, time to continue on. The wheel of life is going to keep rolling. Okay, so today's the 4th of July, and I'm going to deal with that subject. But beforehand, I've got something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. You know, in the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of things that have happened here in America. We've had the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which passed. That happened. During the same week, we had the Obamacare subsidies were approved by the Supreme Court. And during the same week, gay marriage was also legalized in America. 3 things that happened. During the course of time while these happened and were happening, the news was continuing to tell you and over and over about these escaped convicts that may or may not have escaped. But that's all that they seemed to tell you about. It wasn't seen important for you to know about these other things. We also have a big problem going on in this country. We're far, far too oversensitive about everything these days. Everyone is being offended by everything, and we've got to stop that now. We've got people offended if we talk about the color of skin. We have groups offended if we're not talking about them, you know, of things that they've done or historical events. We're offended by history. We're offended by gender. We're offended by crime statistics. If one particular race is talked about the particular crimes they're committing versus another. We're offended by everything. Let us stop this, my friends. What are we going to do? Are we going to erase ourselves and just erase everything that happened in our past? Right now, we are being completely idiotic in what we're doing. And if that offends you, well, then maybe you need to be offended by the fact that we're acting idiotic. We have to stop this behavior and stop pointing fingers, because if we don't, we're going to kill ourselves off. The problem is not with the people. The problem is that the people are fighting with themselves because of what the government is telling or not telling and doing. And if we don't somehow find a way to come together, to get together in all of that we're doing, well, then we're going to really fall apart, because we're on that verge. Now, many of you probably heard over the course of this last week or 2 weeks, all they continue to talk about on the news is the terrorist threats for today. Even though they don't have anything substantial to warn you about, they're going to tell you about these threats because their job is to terrorize you. They are the terrorists. The media is the terrorist. The government agencies that scare you, the terrorists. None of this is necessary. None of this is necessary. You see, there was a time when the founding fathers of this country stood up for the things that they believed. And I believe right now that those founding fathers are rolling over in their graves by what's going on in this America, ashamed at how much we have become so wimpy in this country, afraid to stand up, afraid to say something. What's wrong with us? We used to be brave. We're not brave anymore. We used to be courageous, but we're not courageous anymore. Instead, we're allowing ourselves to be dumbed down, sissified, and you know, treated like cattle, like property. When immigrants came to America, they came to America, and at the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, bring me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses. People came to this country because they believed in the opportunities that were here. And over the course of all of these years, many people have benefited from the opportunities. And as we move forward, many more people will benefit from the opportunities. But we have to do things in the right way. We have to pull our head out of our collective backside and stop listening to the terrorists and stop listening to the liars and stop condoning the thieves and the bad behavior, because that is not going to get us any place except into some sort of civil war that they are trying to push. So you be smarter about it, and I'll be smarter about it, and we'll all be smarter about it. Now today is the 4th of July, Independence Day in America. So I say this is a time when we as Americans remember what this independence is all about. Because it is being taken away from you under your very noses, and the very people who said it would never happen during their lifetime are the ones who are being fooled. So put your egos aside. You've been fooled. Quit trying to deny that you've been fooled. You've been fooled, and let's get with the program and let's fix the problem. And the first thing we have to do to fix the problem is we have to go inside. We have to have better self-esteem and self-confidence for who we are. We have to understand that we know the difference between right and wrong. And since we know the difference between right and wrong, we can make good decisions. And we don't have to follow the nonsense that is going on. We don't have to be selling out to other companies our workforce. We don't have to be following along with unconstitutional orders. We don't need to be signing up for healthcare programs that we know are unconstitutional and scams. We don't need to be in situations where we have one group trying to force another group to bend to their needs for their own selfish purposes. None of that serves any good. None of it serves any good. Everybody has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Everyone has the right to free speech. But it doesn't mean that you then take your right to deny another person their free speech. Because the right you have of free speech means that you can say what you want, and you give the other person the room to say what they want. And if you're offended by it, then just leave. Because that's the beauty of free speech, that you can say what you want and not worry. And if somebody else is offended, they're offended. But you have the right to say that and do that and stand up for yourself. And if we don't do that, we're going to be following some ideals and going down the wrong path. We already are. We got to fix that. So today, 4th of July, Independence Day. Let us just, I know people get so distracted and you bring up Independence Day and what this day is about, and people say, oh, why do I think about that? I just want to enjoy the day. Well, great. Enjoy the day and take 5 moments out of your day to think about the independence that you have, because there were brave men and women that stood up for this country. Founding fathers and mothers who stood up. Right now, that would never happen. We're lucky to have the founding fathers, because we don't have that kind of bravery in this country. We'll find out, because the buttons are being pushed real heavy against the people. We'll find out where we stand. But people, you got to stand up. And I'm telling you, and I've been saying this for a while, and others have been saying it too. Nothing is happening that is a surprise to me, except for the fact that the people of America are just turning away from their intelligence so quickly. That is the surprising thing. How cowardice Americans have become. How much they're willing to kowtow to the liars and the thieves. That's surprising to me. American people, you're better than that. We are better than that. And we need to stand up and stand by our ideals and quit catering to all of the BS that's out there. Okay? Now, let's take a look at some of these things here about what today is all about. Independence Day, the 4th of July, is a federal holiday commemorating the adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776 by the Continental Congress, declaring that the 13 American colonies regarded themselves as a new nation, the United States of America, and no longer part of the British Empire. I'm going to click over to this one here. The Declaration of Independence. We celebrate America Independence Day on the 4th of July every year. We think of July 4, 1776 as the day that represents the Declaration of Independence and the birth of the United States of America as an independent nation. But July 4th, 1776 wasn't the day that the Continental Congress decided to declare independence. They did that on July 2nd. It wasn't the day we started the American Revolution either. That happened back in April 1775, and it wasn't the day that Thomas Jefferson wrote the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. That was in June 1776, or the date on which the Declaration was delivered to Great Britain. That didn't happen until November of 1776, or the date it was signed, which was August 2nd, 1776. So what did happen on July 4th? The Continental Congress approved the final wording of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. They'd been working on it for a couple of days after the draft was submitted on July 2nd, and finally agreed on all of the edits and changes. July 4th, 1776 became the date that was included on the Declaration of Independence and the fancy handwritten copy that was signed in August. The copy now on display at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. It's also the date that was printed on the Dunlap broadsides, the original printed copies of the Declaration that were circulated throughout the new nation. So when people throughout thought the Declaration was on July 4th, was the date they remembered. In contrast, we celebrate Constitution Day on September 17th of each year, the anniversary date that the Constitution was signed, not the anniversary of the date it was approved. If we followed the same approach for the Declaration of Independence, we'd be celebrating Independence Day on August 2nd of each year, the day the Declaration was signed. Okay? So it was a whole process. A process of writing, a process of approving, and a process of signing. And this occurred over time. It occurred over time, and these men who did this, they knew that their lives were in jeopardy by doing this. But they knew it was important. What these men did set the foundation for the country that we Americans live in. And quite frankly, it seems to be the America that many Americans right now are spitting on and trampling on. I don't know why. Probably has something to do with the dictator wannabe in the White House and his corrupt administration. Might have something to do with it. Might have something to do with the fact that throughout the years we've had one corrupt president after the next. Might have something to do with it. But there's good people out there. Now, I want you to listen to this. This is the Declaration of Independence, and I'm going to read this. And as I read through this, I want you to think about the situations that are occurring here in America, and then you decide for yourself. Don't ask anybody else. Decide for yourself if the things that are happening are the same things being described here. The Declaration of Independence, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing inevitably the same object, evinces the design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having a direct object, the establishment of absolute tyranny over the states. To prove this, facts shall be submitted to a candid world. Now, let me just rephrase this last sentence here. The history of the present President Obama is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having to do with the object, the establishment of absolute tyranny over the states. To prove this, we could see that Obama has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in all operations till his assent should be attained, and when so suspended he has utterly neglected to attend them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representatives' houses repeatedly for opposing with mainly firmness his inversions of the rights of people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the states remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage the migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone, for the tenure of their office and for the amount of payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of other officers to harass our people and to eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others subject to us a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment from any murders that they should commit on these inhabitants of these states, for cutting off trade with all their parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefit of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging the boundaries so as to render at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering the mentality of the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed our lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas, to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and their brethren, or to fall by themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every age of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attention in our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of injustice and contiguity. We must therefore acquiesce to the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, peace in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in all the names by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly establish and declare that the United Colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from the allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the great state of Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states that have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all the other acts and things that independent states may of right do, and for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honors. That is the Declaration of Independence. Now, in this declaration, some of the things we see in there is the protection of divine providence. Yes, that means God. G-O-D, divine providence, great spirit, however you want to term it, but the founding fathers understood. And so for anyone in this day and age to remove that, shame on them for removing that, trying to remove God from there. What's wrong with them? But don't worry, they'll get theirs. Karma comes back. And every civilization that has tried to remove God from their civilization and their culture failed. We're at that point. Are we going to fail because we're removing God? Because we're telling God that his rules no longer apply? We're walking on thin ice, my friends. And all of these various regulations and rules and things that are being passed are wrong. As I read through this, we could very easily substitute President Obama's name for any of these things that are being done in here, and we would see that he is doing these things against the American people. We could easily substitute the names of other presidents that came before Obama: Bush, Clinton, Reagan, on and on. We've had one corruption after another. The American people have been lied to over and over and over. The question I have for you is, when are you going to be tired of being lied to? When are you going to draw your line in the sand and said, today's the day I'm not going to let the government lie to me, or today I'm not going to believe the lies that they tell me, or today I'm not going to listen to what Fox News or MSNBC or CNN says because I know that they are just propaganda arms of the government. You got to get smart, folks, because what it seems to be is that we are letting the lowest common denominator of intelligence regulate our society and our rules. And when you have the lowest common denominator, basically the stupid people, when you have the stupid people regulating and setting policy, the policies you're going to have are only going to be policies that are unintelligent, uninvolved, and equally as stupid as the one who was writing those regulations. Now, I'm not trying to be politically correct. That's not me. I hope everyone stops being politically correct, because it's killing us in America. Okay? We're black, we're white, we're red, we're yellow, we're brown. We're various genders. We have all the things that go on that make America great, all the diversity that makes us great. Let's not tear ourselves apart because the leadership in this country is putting a wedge in us. Let's stand together, folks. Because if we don't stand together, we're all going to fall apart. And we need to stand together. So, 3 cheers for us Americans that we can stand up. We fell down. Let's admit it. And let's stand up, brush ourselves off, and move forward intelligently. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay that we made mistakes. But now we know. History is repeating itself, my friends. Are we going to go down the same path? Are we going to go through another civil war because people are going to be stupid? Or are we going to pull our heads out of our asses and are we going to figure it out? And if you're offended by anything I said, I don't really care because people are offended by everything. The wind blows this way, they're offended. The wind blows that way. There used to be a time when we had a saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Well, let's go back to there. Or maybe we should try this when somebody says something to offend us. I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off me and sticks onto you. How about we go with that rather than being offended? Because being offended, well, that sucks. We can do better than that. We're much better than that. And if you don't think so, well, then look in the mirror and take a good hard look at who you are, and you'll realize you're better than that. All right, let's move on from there. Here's an article at In5D, Awakening from Our False Self to Our True Self, by Julian Westdale. In the early childhood, if something authentic within us is not acknowledged and mirrored back to us by our parents, we presume it is unimportant, so we repress it and develop ego structures that will help us cope without it. Psycho-spiritual development is about reversing that process, removing the blockages, bringing things into light, and turning the repression into expression. Self-realization only becomes possible when sufficient psychological undoing has been completed and our conditioning has been neutralized with our awareness and has been purified. Even though self-realization is an instant event, there are several stages leading up to it that can be used as a gauge for our progress and to guide us to the next stage of our journey. So we got 6 stages here. Stage 1, constantly noticing our thoughts, our emotions, and our body sensations. Stage 2 involves realizing that these thoughts, emotions, and sensations are not us. 3, realizing that we are the awareness that is noticing these things. 4, developing a felt sense that we are this awareness. 5, experimentally knowing and feeling that we are pure awareness. And 6 involves experientially knowing and feeling that awareness is being us. Okay? So, I'm going to leave the rest of the article for you, but we need to get back to who we are. We've gotten very confused. Very, very confused. We don't know if we're males. We don't know if we're females. We don't know if we're this color or that. We're just a confused group of people. But we don't have to be, because inside each and every one is the answer. The answer you have inside you of who you are is different than the answer I have inside me, who I am, and everybody else. We have one common denominator in that we were all created by God. And because of that, we all have the same energy that makes up each one of us. We're just all a little bit of a different recipe that makes us unique in who we are. So we need to come to terms with ourselves. We need to get back into who we are. Because when we are in who we are and we're really knowing ourselves, we're not going to let ourselves be trampled over by somebody else. Not going to do it. So, this is a message from Hilarion.
Hilarion.
June the 28th through September 6th, 2015.
Hilarion.
Beloved ones, as life on the planet continues to evolve and expand, many are being called to align to their reason and purpose for this particular incarnation. It behooves each individual to seek within themselves for the answers, for the unfolding of this preordained service to the divine plan, and to consciously and with intention align themselves to it each day. When you do this, events begin to occur that seem to be divinely directed. There will be more information about this that will come to you through various means, such as bringing people into your awareness and sphere of influence who resonate with your soul's purpose and those who can give the assistance that helps set you on your true path. There will be brought to your awareness information, in the form of books, websites, and people, which will activate your remembrance of the work you have come to do. You are now opening to your highest potential, one step at a time, so that it does not overwhelm and overpower you. Your path must feel good to you. There is a new dawn on the horizon, a time of fulfilling and positive experiences which help to cement alliances that will be beneficial to you in the future. When confronted with a situation that you have not foreseen that requires making a choice and decision that overwhelms you, do not rush into action, but bide your time and wait for signs that will lead to the highest outcome. Take time out to relax, to play, to laugh, and just be. When you do this, you are immensely renewed and equilibrium is restored. This leads to greater clarity in all the situations and events that you encounter, and you will be more in touch with your core essence, and that which is right for you to do. Others around you have their own paths to follow, and this is to be respected and honored. It is true that all is one, however, each individual is a unique spark of the divine and has their own purpose. They must allow the divine to express and manifest through them in a way that is empowering and uplifting to them. In this way, all are being served. You are now beginning to come into your personal power. You have done the majority of the work of clearing old thought patterns and ways of being that are not conducive to the path you have chosen and have let them go. Now you are like an empty vessel which the universe seeks to fill through opportunities and encounters that are more in alignment with your soul's true calling. Like is beginning to attract like, those who are resonating at the same frequency and purpose. People will come into your life through chance encounter, through predestined agreements, through soul group activities. Your lives will take on the appearance of the miraculous at times, for when an individual is totally aligned with their divine essence and follows its directives, the appearance of the manifestation of their dreams and desires happens much more frequently, in an ease and flow that feels natural and harmonious. You have established a firm foundation, and now there will be no one and nothing that can sway you from your true purpose, and this is as it should be. On the higher realms, the workings of divine will are in effect, and each soul is apprised of their role in the outer manifestation of it. Do not doubt your part in it, but rather trust that all is as ordained and follow your inner guidance as to what to do. Let the divine's will be done, in and through you. Be aware of the fact that the divine will for your life throughout the ages was and is always, that you experience the bounty and beauty that is available in co-creatorship in all its activities. Take the gifts that are offered to you in full confidence that it is in your highest and best interest. Align your heart to the well of love and abundance of the universe and drink deeply of it. Keep in mind that the deeper you ground your roots into the earth, the higher you will go. Allow your gentle soul to expand into everything you have asked for. Be the incredible brilliant star within the heart of the Infinite One. Be the chalice of pure light overflowing with glory and grace. Drink in the nectar of joy flowing to you from your divine essence. The inner expansion of your divine essence within you will require physical action in the next steps of your blessed journey. Stay in tune with the perfection of all life. When you make the time for creative work, it is like making time for prayer. It is a unification activity which involves the visible and the invisible, the known and the unknown. You are worthy of the time it takes to create whatever you feel called to create. Until we meet again. I am Hyde.
Very nice message from Hyde. Just outlining some of the changes we need to make. Alright, here's Warrior of the Light. This is page 76. The Warrior of the Light is terrified when it comes to making important decisions. This is too much for you, says a friend. Go on, be brave, says another, and so his doubts grow. After some days of anxiety, he withdraws to the center of his tent, where he usually sits to meditate and pray. He sees himself in the future. He sees the people who will benefit or be harmed by his attitude. He does not want to cause pointless suffering, nor does he want to abandon the path. The warrior allows the decision to reveal itself. If he has to say yes, he will say it bravely. If he has to say no, he will say it without a trace of cowardice. And that is the key, my friends. We need to stop being cowards. You see what's going on in this country every bit as much as I do. I can't think of one person that saw the White House painted rainbow gay and feel that that was not a slap in the face to America. I can't feel that there's one person in the church that feels that this administration is letting them down because they are trying to play God. So we need to do something, and the way we can do something is we have to be smart, and we have to do it through the spiritual energy. Because if Americans were to do something, we would pick up guns and pitchforks and we would head over to Washington and we would take care of the problem. But that's not legal, so we can't do it that way. So we have to trust that those in Congress and those in Washington will do the job right. Unfortunately, they're letting us down. So we, the people, who comprise millions and millions and millions more than those causing the problems, we need to come together consciously to put our minds at work in creating what we want. So with that being said, let us go ahead and close our eyes. Take a deep breath and exhale. Take another deep breath and exhale again. Now, let's imagine ourselves looking in a mirror. And as we look in the mirror, we see this outer reflection of ourselves. And as we look, we see that there is emotions and feelings and thoughts and ideas all associated with this persona. And as we look deeper, we look past all of those things into the heart of who we are. And we see our higher self. We understand our connection to the cosmos and all that exists. We know that God, the great spirit of life, flows through us. And that as we understand this process happening, we know that we can create this world to be as we need it to be. So let us consider all of the mistakes taking place with the world governments today. And let us send out light, and let us send out responsibility, that they learn to be responsible for what their actions are. And let's send out accountability, that they hold themselves accountable for all that they do. Let us just imagine that all of those who are in positions of authority in government positions, let's just imagine sending love to them right now. And let's just imagine that this love does one of two things. It either changes them because they are ready and willing to accept love into their lives, or it completely destroys them because they are just an evil being. Either way, love will do its job. So we send out love to the administrations around the world, that they be transformed. We send out courage to the people of America and the people around the world. We send out positivity to the people in Greece, in Egypt, in Africa, in Great Britain, in America, that we may stand for the truths that we believe in, that we may walk away from the lies, and we may find ourselves truly worthy to be the divine beings that God created us to be. Now, on this 4th of July day, let's just think of a positive thought for all of the people of America. Let's just imagine this being a day of love and peace and safety. And let's make this a day where we regain our independence over the corruption that has taken hold of our world governments, religions, and media networks. Let this be a day of change and a day where truth stands up and corruption sits down. Now let your subconscious mind continue on the journey. Just imagine sending out positivity, light, and love. And let's bring our conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3 coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2 coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1 coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's our show for today. I said what I wanted to say. It's up to us where we go from here. We can let those who are corrupt continue to dictate what's going on. Or we could stand up and let the justice inside each one of us come forward and make this a place of truth without corruption, without lies. It's going to take some effort, my friends, but we all have the potential to do that because what we need is inside of us. We're the ones we've been waiting for. So let's come forth and let's make this world the awesome place that we know it can. Let's defeat the corruption. Let's defeat the injustice. Let's kick the liars out of here. Let's remove the terrorists and let's move forward as good, godly people upon this planet. That's it, my friends. Have an awesome day. I love you. Keep loving each other. Happy 4th of July. Peace. Talk to you later.